Hi there, and welcome to Feeling Better. I'm Dr. Betsy Bennett. I'm a clinical health psychologist, and this is the place to come for tips and tricks for getting the most out of life, no matter what disease you might be living with. If you find this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. When you do any of these things, it makes it easier for others living with chronic illnesses to find these videos. It's the algorithm. Last week, I was a guest on John Carlin's really great podcast, Sarc Fighter. And knowing that there could be patients living with sarcoidosis, like I am, who will be visiting my channel for the first time, I thought it would be helpful to create a video that addresses some of the common mental health challenges that come with sarcoid. I don't want to make a super long video, so my goal today is to just kind of jumpstart you on a path of thinking about your mental well-being in a more proactive way. So we'll get started. So first of all, treatments for sarcoid and or sarcoid itself can affect your mental health. So it seems obvious when I say this, but our brains are connected to our bodies. And when you're sick, it's simply unrealistic to expect that your mind won't be affected. You know, even looking back on your pre-sarcoid days, you can probably remember not being in the best of moods when you had the flu or a bad cold. Mind and body are one. But as much as this sounds like common sense, it can be really hard to remind ourselves of this when we're feeling sick and struggling emotionally. I can tell you that I have to learn this over and over again every time I have a flare. And I'll have to remind myself next time. So if you're feeling bad emotionally and you just need a break, here's some information that might help. So when it comes to sarcoid, multiple factors can create a cycle of what we call dysphoria, which is just a catch-all term for any kind of bad mood, feeling irritable, depressed, anxious. And here's how this cycle of dysphoria works. Pain or medication will maybe disrupt your sleep. Poor sleep leads to depressed mood, leads to increased pain, which leads to poor sleep, and so on. It's this perfect cyclone. If you find yourself in this situation, it can be helpful to think of it as like a three-legged stool where pain, depressed mood, and sleep are the legs, and if one is off, the others will make the stool will tip. So when you're talking to your treatment team, it can be helpful to think of this stool and work on tackling one or more of these issues. Sometimes fixing even one, like sleep, can make a big improvement in all three. And remember, just because your symptoms are caused by your medications, and I'm looking at you, steroids, doesn't mean your treatment team can't help. Your doctors can't help you if they don't know there's a problem, so make sure that you speak up, maybe multiple times. Okay, so moving on, we're going to switch gears and talk about the social aspects of living with sarcoid. And here's where it gets kind of interesting, because we're going to explore the role of culture. So when it comes to living with a chronic illness, the culture you live in has a huge impact on your experience with that illness. Culture is like this invisible set of rules and assumptions that we're probably not aware of, but they have a powerful role in how we view ourselves and how others see us. So for example, in the US, I can't speak to other countries, there's a dominant cultural storyline that views illness as basically a fight story. The patient is the good guy being attacked by illness, which is the bad guy. And after a valiant battle, the good guy either wins, they beat it, or they lose, they die, but they're still a hero. And while this narrative can by itself be very motivating for some people, it does come with some baggage. Without realizing it, it can put us under pressure to always stay positive and keep smiling. This idea that like no one likes a grumpy hero or a grumpy leader. We're supposed to be keeping our troops of caregivers and doctors and friends motivated with our good moods and our positive outlooks. But oh my gosh, what a burden this can be. It might be possible for some people to keep that up, but for most of us, it is simply unrealistic to be positive all the time. And not only do we often tell ourselves, maybe unconsciously, that we should be more positive, many of us have people in our lives, sometimes even strangers, who tell us to stay positive. So not only is this advice unhelpful, it can lead us to feeling guilty for essentially being a human. No one can stay positive all the time. As humans, we experience a wide range of emotions, and as we just learned, it's perfectly normal to feel bad emotionally when we're sick. So I don't have a quick fix for this. For me, it's an ongoing process of accepting my feelings as they are and going easy on myself when I'm about as far from positive as you can get. And reminding myself that people who tell me to stay positive, they're simply following the cultural script we have in the US. It's not personal. So most of all, remember this. Sometimes just being aware of cultural pressures can go a long way towards freeing yourself from them. And remembering that it's not your job to be endlessly cheery, and remembering that it's okay to feel whatever it is you're feeling. And that can be quite a relief. And that brings me to my last tip. There is nothing to lose and everything to gain from getting mental health support. For many of us, sarcoidosis is a lifelong condition, and that means that we may never know what it is to be completely healthy again. This represents a huge loss, and getting help with the grieving process won't make it easy, but it will make it easier. So having a trusted professional who can help you sort out your feelings, help you manage changes in your relationships that often come with chronic illness, and help you find a way forward can take such a weight off your shoulders, and it can be a great help to the people who love you as well. So if you decide to look for mental health support, start by asking your treatment team for recommendations, and you can ask trusted friends and relatives too. The important thing is to look for someone who's licensed and has experience working with patients who are living with illness. The most effective and common forms of psychotherapy require significant modifications when working with patients who are living with illness. So you're just going to want to make sure that you're working with someone who understands this and has worked with patients like you before. That's it for today. Check out my other videos for additional support. And remember that learning to live with any illness is going to be tough on you and tough for those around you. Give yourself patience and compassion. You deserve both of those things. Take care.